Hey, Julie.
Hi, Joel. How are you?
Well, we've been having fun in today's podcast. You know, it's very interesting. We've had some very complex issues that we have talked about with our guests. And it's just, I think, reflective of how complex not only the job market is, but a lot of people who have multiple skills and have done multiple things and are still looking to find that right direction. So let's find out where we're going next. Who's our next caller?
Our next caller is a young adult named Alexandra, and she was referred to us from one of her college professors. She just recently graduated from UCLA, and she has a degree in history, a minor in Spanish, and she says she's always done well in the humanities and would like to figure out kind of where she should be landing. Nonprofits, museums, she's not really sure.
Sounds like a perfect client for you.
She's a perfect client.
Okay, let's meet with Alexandra.
A common problem. Let's hear from Alexandra.
Good morning.
Hey, good morning.
Alexandra, hi. This is Joel Siegel from CareerLab. How are you today?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing fine, and you're on the air with myself and America's career counselor, Julie LaCroix, who happens to be sitting right opposite me.
Hi, Alexandra.
Hi, how are you doing?
Good.
So we're happy to have you on the show today, and we're going to help you with some of your career challenges, and I'm going to let Julie kick this off, so let's take it away.
Alexandra, I love your email to me because it outlines your confidence in your career. And as a young adult who's struggling to kind of find the right spot, just the fact that you have power coming through your email to me. I've gotten lost trying to find a meaningful career after graduation, and I could use your help. You're reaching out for a resource, meaning that you know you're valuable, you just need help finding it. And then when you write to me a little bit more about your academic pathway, graduating from UCLA with a degree in history and a minor in Spanish, you then follow it up with what you're good at. I've done well in the humanities. And then you tell me where you want to work. I've always wanted to work in museums and libraries and nonprofits, but I'm having a hard time finding my way. But you're open to new ideas and possibilities. And I just want to reflect that all back to you, because sometimes the way a client presents their problem to me in an initial email tells me a lot about where your mind is, where your sense of self is, where your skills confidence is, and also where you're trying to go. And all we need to really do is kind of figure out which pieces are the highest probability pieces of your puzzle and then lock them together in a story. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, and thank you so much for your feedback.
Sure. You're in a great spot. How old are you?
I'm about to turn 25 in a few months,
okay.
And I'm really looking to just start my first real job out of college.
Right. Your classic entry level. Yeah, your classic entry level history degree. I would love to have a million clients like this, because one of my favorite things about my job is debunking the mystery and the myth that history degrees are not valuable. And they absolutely are. And just the way that you presented that you've embraced your history degree and you've embraced your work in the humanities, and that you realize the 5 or 6 significant sectors where you would like to plant seeds, that is proof to our audience that history degrees and humanities degrees and liberal arts degrees are beyond valuable. So what do you think you really want to do?
To be honest, I find myself really attracted to any kind of job where I feel like I can help people.
Okay.
Jobs that I don't tend to do well in are really sales-based. And so I think that I'm really leaning more into something that might be legal or law, or nonprofit.
Okay. Doing what types of roles for legal, law, or nonprofit?
To be honest, I think that might be my problem. I don't have a lot of networks within these fields, and I don't have a lot of family members or friends who are in this field either. So I think it might be a case of not really knowing what the options are.
Oh, well, that's a really honest, smart response. You don't know what the options are. And one of the barriers for young adults is a lack of career information, and you're bumping up against it, and you just called it out. Good for you. So let's forget what's out there. Let's look at what's inside of you. If you could help people in any way in these fields of legal, law, nonprofit, if they would just open at the entry-level door for you, how would you help people?
I'm not really sure. I know that I like doing things that are involved with, like world immigration, or maybe helping women's issues, women's rights. although I'm not sure what practically I can actually do.
Okay. So again, these are things you're interested in. So you're interested in these general sectors. You're also interested more specifically in the topics of world immigration and women's rights. Have you ever thought about becoming an attorney or working directly in legal policy or contractual work, writing? So
Definitely.
Okay, so now we're getting closer to the role. So tell me just really quickly, let's look a little bit back into your history to see if we can project into your future. What were some of your favorite classes in your degree? I know you got your AA probably, I believe, from Citrus College and then maybe a UCLA degree, which is great. Tell me from all of your 4 years, what have been your favorite classes? Where have you excelled?
Definitely, it's been the classes that have to do with world history. So either Spanish history, Middle Eastern history, anything that is kind of a global history class has been something that I think I've excelled in and really just enjoyed.
And if I can just ask, why did you do so well in the history area? That's a very interesting area. I didn't think you were going to say that. Why have you done so well in that?
I think it's probably just a curiosity about the world around me. And I really like the fact that history kind of offers these kind of answers to like larger global questions. And so kind of focusing on patterns and seeing how things are interconnected. That's sort of what motivated me. Plus just curiosity, like I say, about different parts of the world and different kinds of people.
Wonderful. Did you do a lot of research and writing and papers and things like that in your history degree?
I did a lot of writing. Unfortunately, because I was in community college for 2 years and then I made the jump to university, I don't feel that I had enough time to get involved in professional academic research, because by the time that I realized the opportunities that were out there, I was actually just getting ready to graduate. So it kind of got cut short on that end, but it did involve a lot of writing of papers, more than 10 pages and research.
Did you enjoy the research that went into those papers and the conceptualization of the topic at large and then the synthesis of those vast amounts of information into written format in papers? Did you enjoy that process?
Definitely. I would say that was, a lot of my favorite part. And like I say that I like helping people. However, I really did enjoy kind of working independently and just working in the libraries with books and papers and working alone on that. That was definitely one of my favorite parts of my degree.
Okay, so then would a job helping people perhaps be, let's play make-believe for a minute. For those of us older ones who grew up on Sesame Street and Mr. Rogers, we call it make-believe. What if your job was, your make-believe job, was to research world immigration issues or women's rights issues and consolidate some research into a strategy for a policy, for a nonprofit, for a company, something like that? Would that be fun for you?
Definitely. That sounds like something that I would love to do.
Okay, so that's probably. Do you have any interest in moving to Washington, D.C. and working as a legal analyst or a policy analyst?
If the door opened for me, I would definitely think about that. Yes.
Okay, and you told me you don't have a lot of contacts, so how might this door open for you without you knocking it down with your boots?
That's a good question, and I'm wondering if the answer is more education, like a master's degree, if you think that would be the proper way to go about this?
Well, that's a big question loaded with a lot of risk, but it doesn't mean that I'm not willing to answer it. Let me ask you a few questions before I answer it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Would you at all be interested in, or to what level would you be interested in pursuing a master's degree in public policy or law or something like that at George Washington University, American University, or some of the big ones?
Yeah, exactly. George Washington, Georgetown, those are kind of schools that I would like to attend.
Like or love? Which is it?
I would love to do it.
Okay, well, there we go. So that's what we need to get into. We need to figure out where sometimes I say to clients that everybody comes in here looking for a manhole cover that they can pop off and jump in. And if that cover popped off for you, would you absolutely jump in feet first?
I believe so. Yes.
Is a little bit of hesitation? Is that just not really knowing?
Probably just knowing that most of my family is in California, so having to move across the country would be difficult in that way. So
for a couple of years.
There's right.
Okay. So would that stop? So then I can't really answer that question. Only you can really answer that question. If you found something academically that you would love to pursue if given the chance, and it could lead you to a role in international relations or policy development or even government relations for a company where, like a lot of almost every company has to follow some kind of federal government regulation and run their business operations around it. And there are people like you who do that at the corporate level instead of doing it at the policy level for global topics and national topics like women's rights and world immigration. If you think you want to go to law school, that's a little bit of a different angle. But what I would encourage you to do would be to jump on the George Washington, American University, Georgetown, fill in the blank school that you're interested in, University of Maryland, and look at their master's degree programs with an inspector's lens. Get your magnifying glass out and look at the course sequence and read the course descriptions and really do some research on these programs and find one that rings your bell. Because if you find one that rings your bell, then you're going to then what you're going to do is you're going to activate more enthusiasm to intrinsically motivate yourself towards taking those steps, especially if you can see on the back end what careers they might lead to. And like I said, I'm trying to lay out very broadly and generally what careers these might lead to. You graduated in the last couple of years, so you're just a year or two out of UCLA?
Right. I graduated in 2016, so it's coming up on 3 years. And what I did in between the space of time was to teach English in Spain. And so that's why I'm coming back kind of as a recent graduate, but also like, right.
Yeah.
And I was really interested to hear about that. I was actually just going to ask you about that. So you taught in Spain after you graduated?
Right, that's correct.
Right. What was your experience like there?
I enjoyed it. However, I was working with elementary school, and I love education, and I love the children that I was working with, but I did feel at the end that it wasn't something that I was really meant to follow as a career. At least working with children that young, like I say, I love them, but it wasn't exactly what I can imagine myself doing for years and years.
Right. You need something more intellectually.
It wasn't your cup of tea at all. Yeah. Really, what I was asking you was more how did you like the experience of living abroad? That's what I was really asking.
Well, right. Living abroad was absolutely wonderful. I loved it a lot. I would actually love to continue living abroad, but the salary wasn't really enough to keep me there.
But the key thing is you loved living abroad. You loved being in an international way. And, of course, that's very consistent with the direction Julie's taking you in. That you might look at, further education to potentially have a career in international relations.
Yeah, and there are master's degrees back east in diplomacy, where you could work for the United States government, a federal agency of the government, and go in and do diplomatic work ahead of military, ahead of diplomatic political negotiations, and work on global relationships that the U.S. maintains and improves in small spot regions. I have a few clients who do this for work. It's very interesting. They're on deployment, really. It's an interesting thing.
See, I think that people who really love history do really well in diplomatic and international engagements. I really feel like they just naturally take to it, and that's why I asked you the question earlier about why you thought you did so well in history. So I think the direction we're perhaps leading you in might be a good one for you to consider.
Listen, Alexandra, you have a lot of wonderful assets. Something has to give. If you stay in Orange County and pass up an opportunity to go to Georgetown and get a master's degree and live overseas and do some policy work or become an attorney, with peers who you are capable of interacting with. You might look back 10 years from now and woulda, shoulda, coulda. I'm not saying leave your family. I'm just saying think of the future Alexandra 10 years from now. And if you need to launch, and this is what you need to do, I would invest in yourself now. You can always come back to California and be near your family and bring your experience home and capitalize on it here. But you seem to me like one of those young adults that needs a little bit of a kick in the rump to get out there and really take a look at the water level where you belong and evaluate it very, very seriously. I would encourage you to keep going forward and seek higher ground.
Good. And I would just add to that, Julie, I completely agree that, certain things such as the kinds of career potentials we're talking about can be best achieved when you are young and you have the flexibility and the mobility to really do the things we're talking about now.
This is the time.
So instead of getting locked in, as Julie's saying, to a legal career in Orange County, think more broadly because this is your time to flower and to blossom.
Yeah, we could put you in a nice little HR career here. We could put you in a nice little contracts administration career here, and I just don't think that you would be working to your full potential. I think you would be satisfied, but you would have a skills gap. And the last thing that I want to promote in a young adult is a skills gap. So let's see if we can close it early.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure.
Helpful.
Pleasure chatting with you today. We were glad to have you on the show, and we'll follow up with you to see how you're coming along, okay?
All right, that sounds great. And thank you again. I really appreciate what you said. And I'll definitely go research that the schools back east, actually. Thank you so much.
Super.
Go
you were a
it,
great
Alexandra.
guest, Alexandra.
Go
Thank
for
you.
it.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Have a great morning.
You too.
Bye.
Wow.
She's a hitter. She's just afraid. And she's got her family pulling at her here. And you know what? She speaks Spanish. I heard some kind of maybe a slight accent. I don't know. But sometimes when families in a cultural setting stick together, it can be hard to break out. And we want to be really, really careful that we're not usurping her family value system and destabilizing her family value system for the American individual value system. But she's got to at least research it because she's so employable at such a high level if she just had a little bit more training. She belongs way up higher than she's seeing herself, I think. Smarter.
I agree. Yeah, I don't know what her cultural history is.
She's got to burst through it.
Yeah, but what her ethnic background is. But that also, beyond the point you raised about her family and their value system, could have also been a trigger for her to be able, because if she's bilingual, if she has other qualities, she would already be much further along down the road, even to get into those programs. If you're multilingual, that's a huge attribute. If you can speak Chinese, you're going to be in international relations and get into a class, and that's how that works.
What a great, great caller. I hope all young adults who are thinking maybe they should be pursuing something on the East Coast or in San Francisco or in one of these more innovative, forward-thinking cities that's a little more intellectually sophisticated than wherever they're from, go for it. This is the time. These are very small windows to pierce through, but this is the time when you have the talent and the energy and the youthfulness to get in there and do it.
Is everybody hearing that? Because that is a big piece of business. I can't tell you how many clients I've worked with who have said to me, well, if I had only done that when I was a little bit younger. And so we're saying to all of you out there who are a little bit younger, take that opportunity. Yeah. The world will still be there when you get back.
Can I share something personal, Joel?
If you want to,
okay.
Sure.
I went for it when I was in my early 20s. I decided that I wanted to work on Wall Street. I can barely do basic algebra. My dad is an engineer, and we fought over math for years. And I decided that I wanted to be a trader on Wall Street. And he said, "What the heck are you thinking?" And I said, "Get out of my way. I'm going for it." And long story short, I landed the job. And I was not, as you might imagine, the best trader in the world, but it launched me into an industry where I did find my space, and I was very successful, and I loved it. And I have great relationships from it and great stories and great memories, and it rounded out my person as an American. And I look back and I'm so glad I took that opportunity. If you're listening, young adults, make the opportunity. And if it's hanging in front of you, take it.
Well, I'm so glad you shared your own personal story because it really brings it home. I know, of course, your history, and I know what you did, and I know you were a fabulous trader. You and Gordon Gekko were two of a kind. But,
Maybe with the cigars and scotch.
I know you did very well. But, it's funny. We'll close on this note. We know for all of you young adults listening, there is a lot of pressure to just get into track and don't get out and keep your head down. And what we're suggesting is kind of difficult, but if you do it, you'll find it very liberating.
Yeah, somebody's out there doing it. It might as well be you.
Okay, good. Well, what a great caller that was.
Yeah, she was great. If you'd like to be a guest on Career Lab, send me an email. Visit CareerLabNow.com. While you're there, download my proven curriculum with over 200 entry-level job titles, samples of resumes which have snagged my clients the interviews they want, and a job search strategy that will work for all junior professionals like you. Visit CareerLabNow.com. CareerLabNow.com.